Welcome back, ladies. Oh my gosh, my fellow Power Sisters. It's so good to be back here with you again for yet another interview for this portion of the Redefining Her Success virtual summit with Dr. Anita M. Jackson and the executive team of Power Her Success Alliance. What an amazing day today has been, day 4 of this summit. We are hearing from up to 25 women that you'll be hearing from this week. 7 days and just the most incredible information from the most powerhouse women that I know to be around. So I just hope that you grab your pen and paper and listen in today. We're talking again, real conversations. Today might get a little bit more real. And we're going to just be sharing, talking, conversational flow. I just really want you to feel like you're in the living room sitting with Alison and I. Speaking of which, Alison is on with us right now. Alison Fortes, she's coming all the way from New Zealand. So as Dr. Anita likes to say, one of our executive team members is in New Zealand as well. And her, like Alison right now, is coming to us from the future because it is the next day. So we're excited to have you, Alison. Welcome. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to talk about some things that, I think with Alison, what really impressed me and inspired me and got me excited that I got to actually spend some time with her is that there's so much for a woman today, whether you're at home, whether you're working, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're in a new relationship, all the things that come with that. If you have kids or not, she has a lot of wisdom and a lot of great information that she's going to be sharing with us today. So Alison, she is an author of an amazing title of a book. I'll let her share that in a minute. She's a dancer. She's actually a caregiver. She is redefining her lifestyle right now as we speak, and she has a lot of information to share with us. So Alison, welcome. Please share with the audience a little bit more about you.
Good morning. Thank you, Michelle. It's great to be here. I guess I'm a corporate woman. I have two parts to my life. I have a corporate life, and I've had that for over 40 years, and I'm passionate about that. I'm passionate about my team and doing great work. I work in technology now. And I also would say I have a spiritual life, or I have another life that takes part, and that is part of me and helps me to navigate my corporate life. I started dancing as I used to go to dance classes, and then I eventually started to train in that. And all of this kind of took place after I'd had my children. What happened to me then was my life was completely undone. And I had to rebuild that pretty much from the ashes. And so I went to seek alternative things so that I could really meet them, be able to meet them as a great mother. And so out the other side of that, because they're in their 20s now, is that I'm really comfortable and that I can offer different things to women, and I can be present for them, and I can, do my best in the corporate world, and in some ways fight for myself, fight for my career.
Yes.
And do those type of things, So I guess that's me in a little bit of a nutshell in terms of who I am.
Yeah, that is, you hit on a point that is so important to women, especially working outside the home and finding the balance. And it's really hard to find the balance sometimes because most of the time we don't really know what that thing or those things are that are important to us that are going to make us just really thrive in all areas. And I know you mentioned you're a dancer, and movement, whether it's dancing or fitness exercise, Zumba, walking, running. I'm a former triathlete. I gave up my running shoes. I walk now, but I gave up my running shoes and my triathlete status a few years ago, just for some other reasons. And, finding something new. Horses have been my latest that I've gotten back into. But with any time there's movement, that just lights up from the inside out. So talk about your dancing. What type of dancing do you do?
So I'm a choir teacher. Choir.
Okay.
And what that is, it's about the feminine. So in my corporate life, I was very driven. And I would say my masculine took a big role in terms of achieving and driving. And I felt that actually my feminine was missing. I needed to re-find her to be more whole, I guess. And so what Koya does for me, it's a restoration of sensual movement, of being inside my body, of dancing and having fun, sitting in circle with women and being honest, having those different conversations, not the ones in the workplace, not the ones, how you doing today? I'm
Right.
fine. The honest conversations of actually what's going on in your life. So we come and we join, and that can be for an hour or 3 hours or longer. But
Mhm.
we take that moment of time and we create a beautiful sacred space when we join. We're not in any hierarchy. You know, the masks fall away in terms of who we are and what we do. We just come to simply gather and then we move. We move our bodies and we do that for ourselves. So the beautiful thing of Koya is that it's a safe space. There is a structure and there are pillars that go with that. But each woman it's an open invitation for her to journey inside.
Do you find that that creates more confidence with women? Because, you know, we could be our own worst self-critics. And then I do believe that because of that, we look to others and we could place judgment. And so do you think that kind of breaks those barriers down? Have you
I
found?
think, yeah, I think it's helpful because there is, we're all equal. And what
Yes.
happens when we move together. We're in community, so we're singular, and
Hmm.
then we're dancing as a whole. And what happens is, and I've seen it because I've had women that I work with in my team come to my classes. And in the beginning, they were like, what is this thing? And then slowly they came anyway because they felt more balanced and more in alignment and they could step outside. So they come inside and they move, and then they go back out into the world, if that makes sense. So yes, you have a better standing place. You feel more comfortable inside your body, inside your shoes.
Yes.
I've witnessed that in the workplace. I don't, when I come back into the working world, I don't have a conversation about the class. I just watch, we go about our business day, but I can see. I'm just coming and going, and they're just standing, and they've had an opportunity to let go. Movement is another way to move energy and
Yes.
stuckness out of the body.
So you see firsthand just
I
what
do.
among your peers, what it's done just on the
Yeah,
outside. Can you imagine what they're feeling on the inside?
yeah, and I just keep it quiet because it's private. It's personal. It's not a
Yeah.
discussion for the workplace. It is a sacred space and a sacred container. So I go about my day job and then we gather. I'm
Yeah.
just about to have a class at the end of March, and I expect, and it's been a little while because of COVID and various
Yeah.
bits and pieces. So yes, it helps us to be more stable. It helps us to know that here's a vehicle, and how about I just put on some music for myself? I don't have to go to a class. How about I just jump around my lounge? How about I just do that for one song or two songs, and then I'll start.
Yeah, that I know a lot of people kind of went to the online world during COVID
Yes,
because the gyms were closed, and a lot of people started teaching, exercise classes from home and from Zoom. And I know you teach online classes with this
yes,
dance modality. But yeah, sometimes it's just if you need to change your state, if you're feeling stressed, just getting up and dancing and moving, and like nobody cares, nobody is watching, all
correct,
of that.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
So when you have these dance classes in person, this is more I mean I think it sounds like a sisterhood is being created.
It is.
Sisterhood. Yeah. What would be your definition of sisterhood? Because I know a lot of people might have a little bit of a
um,
different definition.
I guess sisterhood means that actually in today, how we live today, we may not see each other that frequently, but when we do, we know there's a connection.
Mm.
I know that that sister would stand behind me and we could be back to back. I
Trust.
know that she cares and she watches my wins and my fails, right? And she makes a space for me.
Yeah.
She makes a big enough space that I can wobble and I can break and I can come back up and I'll do the same for her, like, and it almost comes from the heart. It's a heart to heart interaction with another woman
Yeah.
that says, I see you. I see your trials and your tribulations, and I'm going to be your cheerleader too. I'm going to be there rooting for you to just, to do your stuff and to go through
Yeah.
the motions.
So my takeaway from what you just said was trust, support, and love. And
Correct.
who doesn't want that? And
I think
we
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 need it.
all have the capability to give that. Sometimes we need to be in a space where we know it's safe to be able to give that. And once we give, I mean, we can just receive so much more.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah.
I really had to foster that. I spent a lot of my life, I guess, my working life, doing it hard. I lived quite far out from the city, and I would say I was a bit of a lone wolf kind of thing, I guess.
Mm.
What Koya gave for me was the feminine in me, the relationships with other women, be that other teachers or be that people that came to classes, and they might come once and they might come many times. And I really understood, I guess, my place. It wasn't push, push, drive, drive. It was more an opening, and it was, it can be as intense as I wanted to make it, but it would just really help to me to say, you know, stand up for women, stand
Yeah.
up for women in the workplace because it's very different. Um, stand up for each other and collaborate. I also love teaching and training with other women.
Yeah.
I also love doing that. So
So whether someone's in like a corporate setting where she's going from her home, driving to an office building and being there all day, or if they're having their own business where they're working hard, maybe by themselves or with a team, it's essential that we connect with other people, connect with other women, especially because that's really we have some of the same the automatic, the innate kind of nurturing types of,
yeah,
whether it's there flowing freely or not, but sometimes it's great to have a male female friendship. I've got a couple of male friends that are like my girlfriends and it's good to get a male perspective on things, but so many times, having that female friend that you can contact and say, hey, and you can be real with. um, I'm dropping off some flowers to a friend today, and we've been friends for over 40 years, and we met in fifth grade. So,
yes.
and don't always agree on everything, but we're there to, that iron sharpening iron with friends that is really, you can't find that anywhere else unless you have that connection. And so, gosh, I know for me, I think my circle has gotten a little bit smaller as I've gotten older, but having those, 1 to 4 friends or so, whether that you can just pick up, it might have been a long time. And like you said, there's still that connection and that trust. That's so important.
Yeah.
How, you talked about being in the corporate setting and you're able to do your dance in that space, and others kind of look and observe from the outside, and then they step in and then they step in and
Yeah.
play. How, what other ways could you suggest to our viewers who maybe have a corporate setting job? How can they create balance? Maybe they don't have, somebody that is able to lead a dance class, um, but how, other than dance or movement, what other types of things can a corporate woman do to create balance in her life so that she's not just going in the job, even though she has other parts of her life that aren't that job?
I think there are small snippets of life. What I had to do was almost compartmentalize, whether it be in having a shower, whether it be after a shower, whether it be putting oil on my body. So I had these small snippets and moments in my life where I moved away and then I went back in. So I also typically don't have my phone on 24/7. I'm not available. If I need that for my job, I do, but mostly I don't even, in the current role I'm in, my work email is not on my phone. I know that's probably impossible for some, but there are some small things that I do that
Yeah.
mean that time is mine, that time is precious. And it might be 10 minutes. It might be when I'm having my cup of tea, or it might be, I have kind of rituals. I have 2 things that are normal for me, and they've been a stock standard that I would call my support team. One is I have a Pilates class weekly
Okay.
with an instructor, and the other thing is that I have a consult with another woman, and she makes a flower essence blend for me. So
She
those
makes
were
a
my.
what?
She makes a flower essence blend for me that I work with.
Oh, okay.
That
An
I
oil,
also.
an essential oil?
It's a flower essence blend, so it's drops, and you ingest them,
Okay.
which I also work with. So I choose to have my own session, have my own time with another person, even though I could do that myself,
Yeah.
right? Those things are external, but the internal things for me are the small moments that I can fit in my day that are actually mine. And they could be that I put a piece of music on and I'm jumping up and down, which is quite normal at nighttime. So at nighttime, if I need a break and if I've had a big day, it's in all likelihood I'll have my headphones on and I'll turn the music on and I'll dance in my lounge.
Nice.
Right. So I don't. There has to be a balance between the working woman and the feminine woman, so that she can
Right.
come into the workplace. She can offer her gifts through her words, through her, her body language, and obviously through her skill. Right? We're
Right.
all we're all highly skilled. We know how to do the day job. The
So much
differentiator.
of that is so much of our identities a lot of times is tied to what that day job is, and we just feel like we've got to wear that hat 24/7. And while we're the same person, we can still take this hat off and put on a different hat, even though it's not where we're trying to juggle wearing all the hats at the same time. Compartmentalizing and putting parts of our life, where they need to be used the best. You mentioned um, um oh gosh, drawing a blank now.
I
On
put mine together.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And
So
ladies, if you have, as you're listening, if you want clarification on anything, just drop it in the comments, and we'll go ahead and respond to those, and Allison will go back into and maybe type in some of these things if you didn't catch them. But the thing that I said this on one of the other interviews today, that every single person that I've interviewed so far has talked about small chunks of time, and how I think as women, we just tend to think that everything needs to be this big thing, and it doesn't. There's a book that I read. Have you heard of it? It's called The Slight Edge. I don't know
no,
if it's called the slight edge theory, where if you have this line, um, and you do little things, whether they're good for you or not so good for you, at
yeah,
some point it's going to go like this, and then it's going to expand out. So if you're doing, say, dance every day, and doing all just these little micros, what I call them micro self-care, it's going to pay off. Where versus if I'm exhausted, I'm going to have another cup of coffee. I'm hungry, I don't have time to make a salad, I'm going to grab a cookie or a drive
mm,
through, or all of a sudden, the negative pays off and the positive pays off. And so what you're saying, kind of, it made me think about that, because those micro sessions and talking with a coach. I mean, I don't think there's ever a time where we don't need either a health coach or a wellness coach or a life coach, or somebody that we can bounce some things off
yeah. It's
as we
been yeah, it's been
con
indispensable for me.
yeah.
Um, I can't do it myself. I could think that I could, but actually I can't. And also that person holds me to account with some of my stuff that's a little bit BS.
Right.
Right. So she calls me out, and if she looks through, and it's probably been, I don't know, quite a number of years. So it's good to have someone that's actually, I would say, a placeholder on my non-working life. She would know all about my ups and downs with relationships, with menopause, with my parents' health. And so she's there for me to have my back. She's also part of my support group.
Yeah.
Right.
So you mentioned a word that a lot of women don't like to talk about because it is associated with, as we are aging. And a lot of women, though, actually will go into a premenopause in their 30s, um, or full on menopause in their 40s, which is usually on the younger end if it's the lower 40s. But usually, mid 40s, late 40s, early 50s is when women start to go into menopause. And I think for some people, there's a stigma to that. And I just, it infuriates me when I hear a woman saying how she's, embarrassed, or she doesn't want to go somewhere because, oh, it's, in the summertime, it's too hot. She has hot flashes and she doesn't want to be embarrassed with fanning herself. But you mentioned menopause and going through menopause. So let's kind of get real a little bit with what that entails. So what has your experience been with menopause, going through menopause?
So I experienced the hot flushes. So I'm out the other side now, but it was probably, I would say, a 5 or 6 year journey.
Mm.
of being intensely hot. And I can kind of distinctly remember it through working times. I'd be sitting in meetings or I'd be sitting with colleagues, and I was on a reasonably big job, and I would break out in a sweat, right? And I would just say, I'm going through menopause. Don't sweat it. I'm all good. And then sometimes I'd get this hot flush and I'd, kind of go red. So the way I see it is I'm okay with it. Men have typically partners, or they know what's going on with women's bodies. Even when I was bleeding and I had heavy, heavy periods, I wouldn't go to work and I'd say to my boss, I'm having a heavy period. I can't work today. And it would be a male boss. And actually, it didn't worry me because I thought, you're a good man and you know what's happening. And I'm just going to be honest with what's going on. So menopause for me, I weathered it. I weathered that storm, and I was, it's an initiation. It was like somebody had given me fire and I could go like that with it, right? So I really had to watch my emotions, but it brings me into my crondom. It brings me into my wisdom. It allows me to burn off.
Great. It's a great reframing.
Correct.
Yeah.
I can burn off any of the dross. So, not that I burnt my ex, but many things happened to me during that time period in terms of my working life, in terms of my relationships, in terms of what I needed in my life. I chose not to have any hormone replacement treatment because that's just how I live. And so I would just say I burnt it off, but I was honest and open about it. I never had an issue with talking about it in the workplace. I never hid from it because actually that's who I am. I'm proud to be the woman in the 20-year-old body, the 30-year-old body, the 40, and so on, So I actually am very comfortable in my skin now, probably more comfortable than I've been in a lot of my life, because there's a wholeness to it.
Right.
I feel like I'm out the other side of many things. My children are older. My father died in December. I'm coming into my eldership. Menopause is part of that journey. And I think in the cycle of a life, there are many things that we tick, and it's a circle. And we should live them.
Fully.
Correct.
And embrace.
Correct. Because that is a life. If that doesn't happen, there's a bit of an imbalance, I believe, right? So for me, menopause, I started a new job 6 years ago, and I met my new team member, and she was the same as me. And I sat down in the office, and the next minute we both get our period, right? And I hadn't bled for ages. So there's a thing with women. There's a thing with us being together.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I just got my period again, and you did that, And we had fans on our desk, right? There was a guy that worked with us. He brought us little fans, and we had
how nice
hand fans. So she gave me a fan, so we would sit there and we would just turn the thing on, because actually that's who we are. We're still great women in the workplace, and I think it's good to know that bodies are cyclical. And this is what the feminine looks like, and actually she's in her power. She's not to be hidden away in the
so
recesses.
important. Say that again. She's in her power.
She's in her power. We're not to be hidden in the recesses, right?
In her power, not to be hidden away. Take that, ladies. Post that on a big old Post-it everywhere in your house. I love that. That is power. Those are power words right there. That is powerful.
In any age of our cycle, we are in our power as women. The 20-year-old in the workplace. My partner's daughter has just been living here. She's 23, and it's amazing to see her. Just a different female body and what she goes through in the workplace. I see her working away and having those conversations with her, So
you've been comfortable in your skin to talk about it, but what kind of advice would you give to somebody that might be not feeling as comfortable or as confident in their skin about this, or maybe they're feeling, I mean, I know you've said some really key nugget words, but somebody just is like, oh, I hate this. It makes me feel like I'm getting older. I don't like that. So I kind of shared, but maybe just in respect to answering specifically that question.
I guess to become informed. So I did a few different things around that. I went to a yoga class, and she had a whole kind of program on how that worked. I joined a couple of things online. So I became, like anything, you do your research.
Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't become overly informed, but I understood what it was, right? I guess I watched and saw other women in their posts and various bits and pieces, right? Whether that be on Facebook, and I just did that from afar, you know. So I looked for role models, if I was being honest, actually.
You looked for
So
what?
I looked for some other role models
Okay.
that were
Great,
modeling
great tip.
owning their menopause or whatever. And so one of them was Maha Al Musa, who does embodied birth, who I've trained with. And so she did a lot of posts around menopause. And I was in her group. I didn't post a lot, but I watched and I read and I thought, it's like if she can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I found other mentors, or they came to me. They came to me at a time when I was like, um, yeah. So I would say, do your homework, understand what all those different alternatives mean,
Mm-hmm.
follow other people or look for mentors, and they may be doing it a different way from you. So be open to that. And then, like I did do a yoga class with a woman who I was, I guess, walking with women of this age, and that was going on with them at the same time,
Yeah.
right? And so I found that helpful.
And it to me, coming back to the sisterhood is important too, so that you can call on them and say, I'm having a really bad day today.
Yeah,
Can you give me just, an atta girl or something,
yeah.
that I can keep going on.
So the fact that I had Anita in the workplace and we were both fanning and doing the same thing and going and doing the hot thing, it was funny. It became funny.
Yeah.
We would laugh at each other because we'd look at each other and we would see this red thing coming on. Um,
I
and it
had
was
a
just
friend who, there were three of us. We went to Hawaii together. We've been friends since grade school. And two of us were out in the living room, and I was doing something on my computer, and she was doing something. And the one that I think has had the most challenging time with menopause, and she was in her early parts of that phase. And she came out and she was talking about this story, but she was in the middle of the hot flash that was happening, and she was talking about this whole like uh, memory of something and then she walked back, and me and the other girl looked at each other and we were like, is she okay? Do we need to respond to that? What do we need to do? And so I got up and I walked over, and she had her whole dress up on the fan just to cool off. And she goes, it's hard. I said, I know. Are you, other than, I mean, I can't do anything, but what can I do? In what way? So, and those around somebody going through menopause sometimes feel a little bit helpless. But like you, when you find someone that can just kind of laugh with you about it, just to kind of
yeah,
get through it, or not make a judgment is the main thing, or not say, oh gosh, you're overreacting, it's not that hot, because it is. I mean, I've been blessed to not have to experience that part, but I've seen firsthand people,
yeah.
and as you're sharing, just I can't even imagine what it would feel like to have this inferno happening within that you can't control.
Yeah, it's very, like I still get a little bit of that now. Like I'm
Yeah.
probably a little bit hot at the moment. In some ways, it's like a journey with fire. Fire is an initiator.
Yeah.
Find others in common, and then for me, it's kind of like own it in your way. You don't have to be broadcasting it.
Own it in your way.
But in the workplace, what you see is what you get. I'm very good at my job. I love working in teams, and in New Zealand we have a word called mana, which means I'm standing in my own shoes. This is my standing place, and I'm going to honor that. I'm going to, so that's kind of how I hold myself. And I've got all ups and downs, crashes and burns, and all sorts of
Yeah.
things going on. But I just think there's an alliance with other women that's very helpful.
And you're in the tech industry, so it's pretty male dominated, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I was in accounting to my 30s, and then when I was 30, I made the shift and I went to Oracle. And that was, I would say, a significant defining point in my life in
Mhm.
terms of the amount of work I had to do and the up leveling I had to do. And I guess luckily, I know women can do anything. And I think that may be from my father or from how I grew up. And so I just went for it.
Yeah.
I just went for it. I knew, but I've been in a contracting job and I've just resigned and I'm going on to another one. And I was trying to understand, why did I feel uncomfortable? And it was actually the microaggressions that have been happening in that workplace. Very interesting. And I was like, oh, why am I attracting those to me? What's going on there that I'm going to take another job? But it just, I guess, navigating corporate life, um, to me, I'm not putting, it's a game of life.
Yeah.
Understand the current board of where you're working and how to get from here to here and how to do a great job, so for me, it is male dominated. I have had some interesting points in my career. I'm probably at a point now where actually I just left my previous job for 6.5 years in a telco, and that was high work. And I'd say I was burnt out from that, actually.
Yeah, burnout. Yeah.
I'd say
Actually, that leads to my next question for
go
you.
ahead.
How,
Yeah.
yeah, what kinds of things can you suggest that a woman do to avoid burnout? Now, this is whether because we can get burned out even if we're self-employed as an entrepreneur, working, in the corporate setting. What types of things can you suggest for a woman to do or to be, how they can be to avoid burnout?
I think I had to catch myself because I think I was in a spiral, which was work, 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 push, 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 achieve, 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 achieve. And I couldn't get off it. It was almost like it was this thing that was just going around. And then I was like, oh, I need to stop actually because I'm going to fall off. So a lot of it was catching myself and going, just a minute, you don't have to do that. That can be done later. You're on autopilot around the intensity of work. And if you don't, and I could feel my body was telling me. So I think there are body signals that tell you to slow down. And I think there's a lot of mental activity that goes on around work, 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 work. So for me, it was just taking stock, stepping back and taking stock and going, actually, you've got a pattern. You need to unravel that pattern or you'll take that with you somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually, I would say there's a silent observer in my life that just gives me a bit of a shoulder tap and says, hang on a minute, can you take a look at that? That's this auto thing of working.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot of pressure in the workplace. Yes, there's a lot of demands on us. But equally, we have a voice to say, I was always calling out. I'd come off 24/7, 2 weeks of 24/7 being on shifts, doing a large cutover.
Wow.
D365 Microsoft product. And so I was like, no, my team can't do that. No. We need to have. So I was constantly pushing back and resetting the boundaries in terms of what's doable and what's not doable. Do we have to go to HR and say how many hours we can work? So there is the normal person that just puts a balancer on it,
Yeah.
right? When you've got a team, balance your team so that you can all win. Then internally, for me, just taking a step back and going, Alison, you are burning at both ends. You need to slow down.
Yeah. So, three things that I just took away from that. I was writing without looking down, but being the silent observer
Mm,
of what's going on, listening to your body. We've heard that from others in this series of redefining her lifestyle, and boundaries. Oh my gosh, all three of those are so important. So important to any part of life where we
yeah,
could be taking on. As women, we tend to take on, and sure, yes, yeah, and I tend to be a yes person. I love, there's a saying, do what you love and you never work a day of your life. And I love all the things that I do and all the areas that I empower women and help them create results in their life through my coaching and my programs. But we tend to want to, I love fun, I love adventure, I love excitement. And so
mm,
I know that that's where I can get myself into a little bit of a situation and like, whoa. And I know when listening to my body, like when I've slept for 10 hours, like what in the world was that? Oh, gee, I'm
yeah.
probably going too hard.
Mm,
Time to step back. So, wow, this I could sit and talk to you for hours and hours and hours. I'm so impressed with all the things that you do and how you live your life to create and
mm.
define. You are in the redefining process with
I am.
a different stage of your life right now, and creating that ideal lifestyle that works for you. And everybody's lifestyle looks different. for everybody. And so we get to pinpoint and find out by trying new things. I know you've got some online classes and you've got an amazing book. And so for those of you in the listening audience, I hope that you've been interacting, ask more questions. We'd love to kind of carry on some more of this conversation in the comment section. But if you want to get more from Alison and the other speakers, I invite you to uplevel your VIP to the VIP status, and the link is below. You can have access to all of the speakers' information and just go even further where you want to. So thank you so much. This has been just an incredible time to spend with you, and I'm grateful for the time that we had. And thanks for coming all the way from the other side of the world.
Anytime, anytime.
I think it's even further than the other side of the world. But yeah, I just really appreciate your time and appreciate the listeners taking the time to listen in. I hope you've gotten some great nuggets that you can take away. There's been lots of things that Alison has talked about that you can start to do today once we get off of this interview and make some massive changes. Yep. And to just redefine your lifestyle so that your life is as fulfilled as you want it to be, as you get the opportunity for it to be. And we look forward to seeing you further in the Facebook group for the rest of the sessions on all of these interviews that are coming through for the rest of the week. And have an awesome day. Thanks so much, Alison.
Yay, thank you.
All right, take care.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.